Ready for more stories? Welcome to Reminiscing, our Highline History, a radio show presenting the memories of our community in the Highline area. Listen to a new episode every week, Monday and Tuesday, with your host, Roger Price, at 106.5 LP FM, South King County.
Good morning. I'm Roger Price, and this morning I'm here at the Highline Heritage Museum, and I have a guest this morning, Jim Bibby. He's been a resident of the Highline area all his life, and he's going to give me a little background and what it was like growing up here in Burien in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and on beyond to current times. So the first question is like to ask you is maybe what it was like back in the 1940s and 1950s growing up around Burien.
Well, Roger, first of all, thank you for inviting me for this. I'm overwhelmed and happy. Burien was always a great, and I emphasize great place to grow up. Athletically, I always leaned toward the sports, and there was sports in elementary school, and that kind of got me started. My dad, being a fast pitch softball player, got me started. But I just always had a fun time in growing up in Burien. I moved to Burien when I was 2 years old in 1942. Mom and Dad lived on 149th and 14th Southwest, a block away from Lake Burien Elementary, which I went to school there. There were no organized sports in Burien until I was 11 years old. But in my before that, it was always you played ball, baseball, softball in the street. You had a play field in Lake Burien Elementary to go to and play. I was the oldest kid in the neighborhood, I guess, but there was 4, 5, 6, 7 other fellow neighbors, I guess they call them. But in 1950, a gentleman by the name of Dave Thatcher started a Little League baseball program that turned out to be the only Burien area Little League team. There was a league of Delridge, Highland Park, White Center, and Burien, and our sponsor was the Burien Junior Chamber of Commerce. On that team, not many of my teammates are still with me. It's just attrition, I guess, from old age. But that started in 1950. In 1951, Dave Thatcher decided to expand and concentrate on developing Little League baseball. And so as a 12-year-old, I played for first of all, let me explain the first year. I just lost all my track. The 12-year-old year, we were sponsored by Sunnydale Oil. My first year was Burien JC's, then Sunnydale Oil. And in that league, it had developed into a few more teams. We had Des Moines, we had South Park, we had 2 Burien teams, Sunnydale Oil and Seahurst Oil. And you could see that the program was being accepted and was going to grow and grow. And if you look at Little League Baseball now, what it is, there's national championships played, worldwide championships played in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. From that year, Dave started to develop a junior football league, which was called Newman's Market. We played at the old Burien playfield. There was a young program. As I recall, there was like 4 5 other teams in the South End. And it just went from there. Once Babe Ruth baseball was followed Little League, and Babe Ruth baseball wasn't totally organized to the point where Little League was now growing to be. But anyway, it just that took me up through the early 50s, and in let's see, not an awful lot of Babe Ruth baseball that I was involved in, I guess, is the best thing. But I did play American Legion baseball for a team or a sponsor, Kirk's Pharmacy. Kirk's was a pharmacy located in the Seahurst area. Excellent family sponsors. It's the first time I'd ever been exposed to 2 sets of uniforms, team jackets, travel. Very, very exciting years of my life, both in, that was 56 and 57. Continued on into Highline High School. Highline graduated in 1958. Highline had 600 graduates. It was the second largest high school in the state of Washington. Everett was ahead of us in there, but there was no Evergreen High School. There was no Glacier High School. There was no Tyee, Mount Rainier, Glacier. Evergreen had sophomores. They were just getting the fledgling to be another school in the area. And just went on from there. It's not so sure how far you want me to you want to go here.
So when did you meet your wife in high school, or
no?
Later on?
My wife is a Glacier lady. When I graduated from high school, I went into the United States Navy, and I still had aspirations of maybe being a professional baseball player. I had a walk-on free tryout with the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1958. That never panned out to be anything. When you go to these, they usually just let you show your stuff, and they get back in touch with you. And Pittsburgh did come back and ask my American Legion coach where I was going to be playing, I'm assuming to track me a little bit more, and I had already committed to the Navy. So that season was over with. But I married my wife, Patty, in 1963 after I came out of the Navy. We did not know each other previous. We met at Lou's Hamburger Place in Burien on 1st and 152nd. Some of you might remember that place. I have 3 children, Stacy, Hannah. I'm sorry, that's my granddaughter, Stacy, Shannon, and Brett. Stacy passed away at a young age from physical problems. But it's, no, I did not know my wife until I met her at Lou's Hamburgers.
Well, that was quite, so Lou's was kind of a hangout for a lot of the high school kids they opened, I think the Lou's Hamburger stand opened around 1957, 58.
Right.
So it was really quite the hangout for all the kids back in that age. So then when you got out of the service, you also kind of volunteered and was a Little League coach, and maybe you went on to coaching a little bit after that.
Yes. I had let me go back just a bit, Roger. I wrote a letter to the Seattle Rainiers when I was in the service, still wanting to look into a baseball career. And they welcomed me with open arms for a tryout when I got home. Well, I got home the day after the season ended, so I had to wait another year. But it's while I was there, Johnny Pesky was the manager at the time, and a gentleman by the name of Edo Vanni was the general manager. Ito called me into the office and told me that, I was 22 years old. I should be developed somewhere already. If they did sign me, they would send me to this place called Pocatello, Idaho, or Elmira, New York. I would ride a bus for several years. If I really wanted to do something, start coaching kids, which I did. And so around 1950 or 1962, 61, I started coaching Little League Baseball. And I spent the next 25 years, I went from Little League Baseball to junior football, junior basketball, the Pony League, Pony League Baseball picked the age up of 13 to 14. Then I went on to Colt at 15, 16, American Legion, where I played and coached later in the life. Connie Mack Baseball. I played a little bit of semi-pro baseball, and I'm starting to get married and raise a family, and there just wasn't enough time for everything to go on right now. Kind of a sidebar here. The day after I was married, I was on a baseball field coaching the team. But coaching went on for about 25 years in both boys. And I did coach my daughter's basketball team for a couple of years in a program called Highline, or HIRA, Youth Recreation Association, HIRA. But that's basically where my coaching went. It just spread out in all ages and all types of teams here in the Burien area.
Wow, yeah. So you mentioned Dave Thatcher, and I remember couple of the old baseball coaches back in those days was George Love and also Pop Angel. They were quite influential and really were inspiration to the kids coming up in the Little League and Pony League. So they were all, I think Pop Angel was also a relative of the Westcott family. But so they were always involved in coaching.
Yeah. Yes, Pop was the grandfather of the Westcott family, of the girls, and Dean and Billy and Patty and Penny, and I'm missing a brother there somewhere. But George and Pop usually coached together. I think they branched out as later years, but Dave Thatcher and George and Pop were without a question the groundwork for all of the junior teams, mostly baseball, but the kids. George did coach an older team. Can't remember the name of that team. And Dave Thatcher did take I think it was a Babe Ruth team to the national championships in somewheres on the East Coast. But Dave was my man. He started me off on the path that I really, really enjoyed.
I remember reading some oral histories from people that they weren't recorded by me, but they were recorded in some of the books we have downstairs. And back in the 30s, I believe, Fred Hutchinson used to come out to Burien on Sundays and play baseball out at Lake Burien Elementary School, grade school. So that was kind of an interesting tidbit on the side about the Fred Hutchinson and the Rainiers.
Yeah.
But after you got involved in the coaching, then you also had some businesses in Burien too.
Yes, I opened a sporting goods store. I say sporting goods, a baseball athletic type of store in Burien. It was called the Foot Locker. And I had a friend who was a traveling salesman for Adidas shoe company, and he went up and down the West Coast selling Adidas, and he contacted me telling me that there was a chain store called the Foot Locker coming up the coast, and if my name wasn't registered with the state, I might think about doing that. And I took Gary at his word, and I registered it. And one Saturday morning, while I was operating the store, I saw a gentleman out front taking photos. Well, come to find out, the Foot Locker was challenging me to remove my name because they had the contract or the franchise or whatever we want to call it in the state of Washington. And so I naturally had to hire a lawyer and found that I had registered the Foot Locker prior to the Foot Locker coming up the coast. So the shoe went on the other foot. Now they had to stop if I wanted to force it. And the lawyer told me that, Jim, unless you've got lots and lots of money, you don't want to fight them for this name. So he suggested that I change the name to the athletic department, which I did. And some folks might recognize the name of the Foot Locker throughout the whole Seattle area. And although maybe I wished it was me, it wasn't me. And so there was a very exciting couple months there that did it. But yes, I did. I left a business or a company down in Seattle called Ernie Rose Sports Equipment, then later became the athletic department. And I just kind of got tired of being down there, so I opened my own store in Burien, and I had 5 high schools, I had 9 junior high schools, and I had 32 elementary schools, potential customers to do it. But after about 11 years, that kind of got tiring, working off a budget of shoestrings and mouth guards. I decided to close the store, actually sold it. And I think it is still in existence here. I'm not sure. I haven't paid any attention to where they moved to. So
that was it. Yes.
That was it.
But you also had a career also with the city of Burien.
Yes, I after I closed the store, sold the store, once again, I went to work for a company down in Kent selling ad specialty programs and silkscreen type things. And when I turned 62, they decided to cut my hours because I was getting old and they were afraid that I was going to retire on them. So I started volunteering for the city of Burien as a code enforcement officer in 2003. And that led to, from a volunteer to a job without benefits to a job with benefits. And then the gentleman that I was kind of working under decided to quit, and they offered me the job of code enforcement all by myself. And I spent, I guess it was about 11 years. I retired in 2014 from there. And it was a job I truly missed, but I decided I had to retire if I was going to enjoy retirement at 73, 74 years old. So,
but you also have hobbies. You do a lot of woodworking, and that's kind of your.
Yeah, I'm a woodworking freak. Nothing big, nothing highly finished. I'm more of a small items type stuff. But I've been doing bazaars during the holiday season now since 2015, and I operate out of my garage. My wife deathly wished I would get someplace where I could leave sawdust laying around instead of in our garage and all over her car. But sawdust is my nemesis. But yes, I've enjoyed that keeps me out of trouble, or kind of out of trouble. So that's that.
It keeps you very busy.
Very busy, yes.
Yeah. Going back to the days in the 50s and the Burien Field House, I imagine you have that was in the center of Burien. It was actually where the new library is now, but the field house was kind of a gathering point for a lot of kids back then, either to play basketball. They had tennis courts there and a baseball diamond, the field and bleachers. So you probably have a few memories of playing ball inside that gym.
Yes, I spent a lot of my time down there. I might mention that along with it being on the corner of 4th Southwest and 152nd, where the library is, it was also where City Hall was, where I worked a lot of the years. The Dick Geiselman was our superintendent, or I'm not sure what his title was. Dick Geiselman was a Seattle Rainier baseball player in their Hall of Fame. He was very knowledgeable in baseball for sure, but the Burien Playfield was a relic. It looked like a log cabin. White Center had a stadium like this, and Des Moines had a stadium like this. And Roger, I think you mentioned earlier that you thought Enumclaw had a facility like this. The thing about the field house was that it was a one-court field house, but there was a stage, and at a certain age, you could never get on the court to play basketball because it was always the older kids. And at one point, you hit an age where you became one of those older kids, and you could take precedent on playing pickup basketball down there. We had a team a couple of years of basketball that we would travel to Des Moines and to White Center and occasionally into the city of Seattle for a tournament or something. But yeah, it was, I wish the city had something like that now because we certainly could use it.
Yeah, well, I wish we had something like that now also. Well, Jim, I think this has really been quite an entertaining interview. I know I've learned a few things today, and perhaps there's going to be opportunities for another one sometime down the road. Well, and I thank you very much. This was a great time.
Well, thank you, Roger. And like I said, I appreciate it. There's a lot of history you can still go over in the city of Burien.